Welcome to this Forge College Explainer. Okay, today we are rolling up our sleeves to assemble the final capstone document for our EVM versus SVM architectural deep dive. If you recall our previous lesson on runtime performance, constraints, and trade-offs, well, we spent a lot of time on the factory floor. We generated a massive amount of data, measured latency, pushed boundaries, and, honestly, we made a bit of a glorious mess. So today is the day we finally sweep up all that chaotic raw data, gather up the metal shavings and scattered metrics, and maybe, just maybe, sweep a few of those embarrassing benchmark failures under the rug. We're forging it all into a highly polished machine, taking everything we've learned about the Ethereum virtual machine and the Solana virtual machine and synthesizing it into one review-ready technical report. Here is our game plan for today. We'll cover Section 1, the capstone blueprint, then move on to gathering your materials, firing up the assembly line, running our quality control checkpoint, and finally, looking at what's next with account models. Section 1, the capstone blueprint. Defining the acceptance criteria. Right now, our current state is basically a workshop floor completely covered in scattered spreadsheets, loose Markdown notes, and rough metrics. Honestly, it looks a bit like a toddler's math project. But our target? We are aiming for a sleek, synthesized technical report. We want a polished PDF complete with an executive summary, perfectly integrated charts, and a beautifully formatted bibliography. We are literally turning raw, disjointed architectural data into highly legible insights. Now, the absolutely crucial point here is meeting our exact specifications. We have to treat our rubric like strict engineering tolerances that cannot be ignored. So our blueprint demands an executive summary featuring exactly 3 well-supported claims contrasting the EVM and SVM. We're going to need at least 2 charts rendered directly from our runtime data, plus a minimum of 10 cited sources, which should include official protocol docs. We are shooting for at least 2,500 words, and, perhaps the most critical tolerance of all, this entire document must be generated via a reproducible build script. Seriously, no manual copying and pasting allowed. Section 2, gathering your materials. Sourcing the artifacts. We can't build a high-performance machine without the right parts, right? So we are taking all those scattered source artifacts from lessons 2, 3, and 4 and routing them cleanly into a highly organized directory structure. It is so incredibly logical. For example, our populated comparison table mapping out the execution semantics goes straight into its own Markdown file and a data CSV. All those runtime drafts and latency CSVs from the last lesson, they get routed right into a runtime Markdown file and an automated figures folder. And our metric spreadsheet and normalization formulas are placed very neatly into a methodology paragraph in the appendix. Everything has a place, and every single place has a purpose. We really need to understand that we aren't just sitting down to write a paper. We are engineering a reproducible build. We are relying entirely on code rather than digital duct tape. Look, in the world of Web3 and architectural engineering, saying, well, it worked on my machine is practically a swear word. A reproducible build means any peer reviewer anywhere can download your repository, run one single command, and compile the exact same PDF. They will render the exact same EVM and SVM charts from the exact same CSVs. It's the ultimate bulletproof test of your technical rigor. Section 3, the assembly line. Powering up the build script. It is time to fire up the conveyor belts and let our Python script do the heavy lifting. We are mechanically transforming source data into a compiled document, step by step. Step 1, the script uses Python's pandas and matplotlib libraries to grab our raw CSV runtime measurements and render them into beautiful, clean charts. Step 2, it concatenates our modular Markdown files in perfect outline order. And then step 3 is where the real magic happens. We run Pandoc. Pandoc acts as our master assembler. It takes the combined Markdown, processes our BibTeX citations, and presses the whole thing out into a pristine PDF with a clickable table of contents. And the result is the exact kind of high-quality visualization you want, automatically translating your raw CSV latency numbers into undeniable visual proof. When you're out there making bold claims about the Solana virtual machine's parallel processing speed versus the Ethereum virtual machine's sequential execution, you simply can't rely on adjectives. You have to show the data. Things like mapping out the mean runtime latency by environment. And because this is generated automatically from your source CSV, if you decide to run a brand new benchmark test tomorrow, your entire report updates instantly. That right there is the pure power of a reproducible build. Section 4, Quality Control Checkpoint. Stress testing the output. Before we even think about shipping this PDF out for peer review, it has to survive our rigorous quality control checkpoint. Because honestly, just because a script ran without crashing doesn't mean the product is ready for the real world. If your document doesn't pass these strict tolerances, especially hitting an 80% aggregate score, it gets sent right back to the welding station for repairs. You've got to verify the executive summary actually contains 3 distinct cited claims. Every single inline citation has to map perfectly back to your bibliography. And you must self-score your document against the rubric, making sure no major category falls below 60%. We want technical accuracy, clarity, structure, and absolute reproducibility. The golden rule on this factory floor is the evidence-first structure. This ensures reviewers can trace every single assertion you make all the way back to the original raw source data. If you claim that the SVM handles state bloat better than the EVM, well, that sentence needs a citation pointing directly to your normalization spreadsheet or your benchmark data. We don't do unsubstantiated opinions here. We do hard, verifiable architectural analysis. Trust me, this structure not only builds massive trust with your reader, but it makes your argument completely bulletproof. Section 5. Next up, account models. Looking to the horizon. With the final capstone PDF compiled, verified, and tagged for review, we have to look ahead. Because as any good architect knows, solving one problem usually just reveals the next one. Your conclusion actually isn't just an ending, it's a launchpad. It feeds directly into our upcoming transition from Ethereum to Solana. Instead of just wrapping up your findings on execution semantics and runtime constraints, your capstone should end by asking the big questions. Like, okay, given these massive differences in how the EVM and SVM process data, what does this mean for how they store user accounts and balances? You want to leave your peer reviewers totally primed and ready for the next phase of the discussion. So I will leave you with this pivotal question to ponder before our next lesson. How do these runtime constraints actually impact account models? Think about how state is represented and how that completely shifts when you move from Ethereum to Solana. It's an absolutely fascinating puzzle. Thank you so much for joining me in this Forge College Explainer. I want to remind you to visit forge.college to continue your Web3 journey and learn even more about these brilliant systems. Go build that capstone, run your scripts, and I'll see you in the next one.